I am Yori Volari. We have inflation. That we have inflation is not news anymore. Everybody knows about that because it's biting. Even by our own sort of modest, relatively modest heights of 26.72%, and I understand that that's the 9th consecutive time it has risen. Of course, when you're looking for comfort, you look around you and you find that, oh, there are countries that actually have 400% inflation, and then we're not doing too badly. Some countries even have 100 and something percent inflation. But I guess I stopped sort of deceiving myself and concluded that, look, look, those figures might be a bit more comforting, but you don't want to be in that territory. You don't want to be in the Venezuelan kind of a territory at all. But so here we are in Nigeria, 26.7, and this has been rising consecutively for the 9th time now. So to sort of explain what it is, maybe for those who are interested, how we got here and what is being done about it, and how can we arrive at a situation of never again that we say about so many situations that are not pleasing to us. Well, I've got a couple of experts in the house. Mr. Kayode Oyedeji is an economist. Thank you very much, as always, for coming on again, Kayode.
Thank you very much for having me.
Our pleasure. And Mr. Omorui Edogiawere. He's a startup business lawyer and a financial analyst. Thank you very much for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
Indeed, it's nice to meet you. Let me just start from, both of you are knowledgeable in this field, but let me go to the pure discipline of the economy. Yes. Let's start from that pure discipline. 26.72%. It's been climbing little by little, till we have, I was making a joke of it the other day in terms of as it relates to food and food inflation, where most people will know, especially in Lagos, southwest of the country where we're broadcasting from, that you go to a mama put and say, give me 100 naira rice, and she'll say there's no such thing anymore. Well, before, 100 naira rice was a big deal. So it's that if I were to try and satisfy you, say you said 100 naira rice, what you see in your plate, maybe 2 or 3 spoons fulls, and you're through. So that was, I thought that was a particular way to sort of illustrate the situation that we have. But tell me, how concerning, from an economic point of view, do you find where we are, according to these figures that have just been released?
Well, the figures are not smiling
at all.
And you've described the impact as vividly as possible. It has to do with the welfare of the people. Mm-hmm. The main thing is people should be able to access basic necessities of life at a cost that their pocket can deal with. Once you're unable to do that one, then there's a problem. Prices have been going on, and virtually all the prices in the market support government position that would have had inflation rates of about 26.7%. Some analysts will even tell you that that's understated. And now if you take key basic food items, because food inflation is about 30% on its own, if you pick food items one by one, mm-hmm. essential items, take poultry products, take rice, take tomato, take yam, take plantain, even at the period of harvest, you discover that prices have not gone down. Why do we have this level of inflation? There are different factors responsible for it.
Indeed. Well, we're going to come to that, and thank you for opening up like that, and also using food inflation, because everybody can relate to that. Food inflation on its own, how many percent did you give us?
About 30%.
About 30%, and even the 26.7%. This is because these things tend to move in, minute percentages. You can't just round off and say 28%. No, that's a big deal. If you were to say 20, it's not. This is just stated for what it is, 26.72%, bad as that is. What I wanted to come to you before we begin to look at how we might begin to come out of it is that I described you in introducing as a startup business lawyer. Now, I want to pick up on the startup point of view. Everybody, well, not everybody, but most people are on a salary. Well, I don't even know how true that is, but people know this whole business about waiting for 30 days to make one pay. Yeah. Now, we are being encouraged to whatever it is that you can do to start something on your own. Now, I want you to look at what are the opportunities or the heartaches for startups in this environment that we have on our hands here. Let's say somebody was just thinking about that idea in the past 1 year, for example.
You're literally your own government, your own country. You give yourself power, you provide yourself with water, you provide yourself with security. You're doing what government should do for you, and also doing what you should do for your business. Biggest challenge that entrepreneurs face. And then looking at funding, before the show went live, we were talking about interest rates, right? And how indigenous manufacturers and businesses are finding it more expensive to secure funding. And so what's the ripple effect is that if it's more expensive to get money, it will be more expensive for me to sell to the end user. The end user will pay more, right? So creating an enabling environment for entrepreneurs and startups to thrive and contribute impactfully to the economy it has to be an intentional decision, right? And the approach has to be bespoke, looking at our current peculiarities and our realities. Now let's talk about food, right?
Okay.
And I said this morning on another business show, and I had pointed out that, look, we've got to declare a food emergency in this country. If we don't think we've gotten there, then there's a problem. Now, we've got to now push agri-startups, right? Agri-tech companies to invest in, look, we have arable land.
Well, you did say the solution should be bespoke.
Yes.
So I was going to, I'm so thankful that I didn't jump in there. When you say bespoke, that's not anything basic, unless I'm on this misunderstanding, because when you talk about a bespoke suit, you know where you're heading for. You're not heading for off the shelf.
No. Mr. Forlari, what's important? When I say bespoke, means the solution must factor our current realities.
Okay.
Right? You don't give me, you don't bring what suits a white man and come and foist it on a black man.
Oh, okay.
It's got to be something that we understand, an approach that works for us, right? And so, like I said, we have a food emergency. Let's leave all the highfalutin figures. Let's come down to the basic. The cost of rice, the cost of garri, the cost of yam is more expensive. But do you know that in Boko, where that yam is being farmed, the price may not have necessarily changed? There are certain incidentals that are affecting the end user, right? So what we also have is what we call cost push inflation. I'm sure he would give us that analysis where, look, the sellers are saying, no problem. Guess what? I will increase my price. I really don't, So you, the salary earner, will suffer it.
Yes.
Right? So, but when
because
we look
you are fixed.
So why don't we look at the incidentals? Our logistics is zero. You have 200,000 kilometers road network in this country, but barely 60,000 is working.
Let me come back to you, because our producers just fortuitously showed a picture there of somebody offloading yam. And there was a picture earlier during the week where somebody was bemoaning spoilt produce.
Yes.
That was in trailers that have been stuck.
Thousands of them, yes.
Thousands of value
because of bad roads.
Because of bad roads. And so I thought we'd come to here as you tell us how it is that we're after. Everybody is going to, and certainly it is one of the main culprits, which is the removal of the subsidy on fuel. Yeah, it's number one, but it's not the only one. Could you talk us through this whole matter, maybe managing to join what Amaru just said, with what we're going to hear now?
Okay, we were talking about the costs, the cost of this problem. And you've mentioned the removal of subsidy. It's a key factor. It affects virtually the entire economy and the general living condition of the people. That's one. The other one is that most of the food items are also imported. And because we've had devaluation in the exchange rates, the market reflects the black market rates, which they use to smuggle those items in. But that's, by the way, that's why you have poultry products going up within the period for about 20%. You have the same thing with tomato, and virtually all the items they were able to bring in during that period.
And the increase for fish farming and poultry products is coming from what? The cost of feeds?
Yeah, it's coming because they can't import maize, for instance. The grains they need to make our livestock feeds are not available. The little that is available is very expensive. So the major problem is price stability. How do we achieve price stability? We have to go back to the causes of this problem. The logistics cost is heavy. You have to move items from one region to the other because of our Nigerian peculiar landscape. It's expensive. We don't have the rail system that can handle that. So even when you manufacture these products, a basket of tomato in Kano at the market can be 1,000 naira. Before it gets to my 12 market, it's about 12,000.
Yeah.
So the cost is heavy. That's one. Then another thing is that we basically have supply gap crisis in Nigeria. And I'll give you a very simple analysis. To have adequate food within the system, for instance, you need 10 units of Article A. But unfortunately, all you have presently is 3 units of Article A. So you have a supply gap of 7 units. How do you bridge that gap? And unfortunately, we've not been able to move those goods freely within the ECOWAS sub-region as we used to do before. So we now rely on smuggling and other stuff. So in the process of getting things to the market, in the process of dealing with that supply gap, everybody has to scramble for what is available. And elementary definition of inflation in economics, you have so many goods, so much money, chasing very few items.
Yeah.
And to make matter worse, at a time like this, the system is awash with so much cash. The banks have so much cash. Government is spending extra on palliatives. Government is planning to spend additional 1 trillion. Where is this money going to? That's number one. If you have so much money within the system, how come it's not impacting the pockets of an average working class?
Because I was just going to ask.
That also goes to the problem of income inequality. Where is our money going to? These are issues that should be addressed one by one. And thankfully, the CBN is doing a lot now. Okay. The CBN is going out of its way to ensure that there's price stability. How is CBN going to do? CBN has very few options. Deploy the monetary instruments. Begin to look at how to mop up some of the liquidity, excess liquidity we have in the system by selling probably the traditional open market operation activities, looking at the discount rate. The other one is to increase the interest rate, NPR, and that's suicidal. So CBN is in a fix. If you increase the NPR, for instance, from the current rate, you've increased from 13% progressively to almost 20%, you are going to push interest rates forward. And you want manufacturers to move to manufacture more. Then they have huge cost of funds. They're unable to do that. That's number one. The moment CBN does that, the objective is to reduce business and household spending, technically slow down consumption. Consumption is relatively too low, almost to the point of hunger and starvation at the low end of the economy. So the moment you push NPR up, we have more crises. Then you have people moving their investment from the productive sectors of the economy into the risk-free assets. That's the fixed income securities. That means I can put my 1 billion instead of going into manufacturing or trading into a fixed deposit where I will earn 20%. That means in 5 years, my money will double. So there's a crisis there, and the CBN is watching the issue, I believe, very closely and keenly. So by the time you do that one, I'll rather decide not to do business, move my investments into risk-free security. I would rather, and this will affect other sectors of the economy, of the market, because people begin to move their investment from real estate, from capital markets, which we need to develop deeper. Move it from capital market to fixed income securities where they can earn free money and risk-free interest. So it's a bit technical. So at the end of the day, at the end of the day, we'll discover that the real solution lies in 2 ways. Dividing it into the immediate, the short term, and the long term. In the immediate, government must find means to ease the supply gap. And I think CBN has started that by saying that let's remove the food embargo we place on ourselves. Let's have more supply of good items. That's also dangerous because it can discourage manufacturing. Our industries can't compete effectively and favorably with. So we are in a fix, but ultimately they have to take it as it comes, day by day.
As you said.
The short run, they will move to the medium term, they will move to the long term. Where we have to develop agriculture, push much more resources into agriculture, put more investment into agriculture. And we have to also look at this. We are going to spend about 1.3 trillion on palliatives. Instead of spending so much money, pushing so much money into the economy, why can't we begin to spend this money to develop, to increase efficiency in the agriculture value chain?
Okay, exactly.
Ultimately, that would eventually boost production, and we'll be able to get better results in the short to medium term.
Thank you so much, Kande. And the agricultural value chain that he spoke about that one too has its own heavy, very heavy components because agriculture, which he was speaking about earlier, it depends. Tomatoes in one place, get it at an acceptable price. Getting it down to place B totally wrecks everything. And I imagine it's part of the trade chain too, the roads by which to arrive there. But the question I wanted to bring to you is that, look, everything that Kade explained and that is known, the people that we are trying, that President Tinubu is traveling, trying to woo, trying to persuade that, look, Nigeria is indeed a good investment destination for you. What do you think they're thinking now? Because they certainly will be watching all of this, and it behoves them to do their research before coming.
The hallmark of an entrepreneur is to go into a place where there's a problem, sell a solution, and make money.
Okay, excellent.
Any smart businessman will know that Nigeria is the place to do business now.
Because there are so many problems that are just begging for solutions.
Let me give you a small analogy. If I can bridge the gap between Kano and Lagos, where I can say to people, hey guys, I buy a basket of tomato at 2,000 naira, and I can give it to you at 4,000, right? I have a logistics supply chain. I'll have over 1 million people buying from me. I'll make my money. You mentioned those rotten products. So guess what? Here's what's going to happen. The few that will make it to Lagos will be times 10 the price.
Yes.
Nigeria is a bundle of opportunities right now. The challenges we're facing is an investor's delight. Yes, there may be certain issues, there may be certain challenges. Those challenges are not unique to us. But the issues are, in those challenges are problems and solutions screaming at you. So if you can provide those solutions, you make your money. That's what entrepreneurship is all about. That's why entrepreneurs are different from business.
Well, what about the part of the enabling environment?
Good. That was where I was about to go to. So this government has shown that they have the political, there is that improved political will to open up ourselves for business, right? So that is there. Government has said, we want to create an enabling environment. Already before the Buhari administration left, they passed the Ease of Doing Business bill, right? And they tried to streamline for startups. That's my ecosystem. We pushed for the enactment of the Startup Act. And now I think, we're pushing to get the states to adopt it, right? To create that enabling environment to allow businesses thrive. But the point is, if I give you 3-4 sectors that are thriving in digital innovation and digital economy ecosystem, they are primarily being controlled by foreigners. You'll be shocked. Fintech, for one. Because they found a financial inclusion gap. And they plugged into that financial inclusion gap. You don't want to know the figures they are cutting out. Now, food is, listen, in inflation, whether there's inflation, we must eat. We all ate before we come in here. Food is important. And so as long as that is a mainstay for human survival, it will continue to be a viable area of business. So what do we need to do? Let's leave the figures, let's leave the numbers, let's look at the facts. What are the facts? The man producing in Boko, the guy harvesting in Kano, their prices have not necessarily moved.
That's what you meant.
That buffer that is coming down to your pocket and mine is a product of certain gaps, inefficiency gaps. So let's start to plug those gaps. One, logistics. He has mentioned it. Why can't we have a train transportation, right? A train station from the major food hotspots, food baskets, to the urban areas. Don't forget, you see this analogy of 100 naira rice is in Lagos. There are places in this country where you can't even finish 50 naira rice, even today.
Okay.
Right? And that is,
that's another side of the coin.
Yeah, so, and that is because they really are still a bit detached from some of these challenges that we're facing. Right? So let's look at those
it's like
gaps.
what you're saying is that the cost of living hasn't necessarily gone up equally.
No, it's biting hard across, right? It's biting across, but in some places it's biting a lot harder than the others. The urban areas are facing the brunt. Lagos is at the center of a lot of these things. But if we focus on logistics, road network, I said to you, we have 200,000 kilometers of roads. How many are actually good and motorable? Now, if we fix that, it's easier for me to transport, right, and bring food in. And then I don't have any justification to throw the cost astronomically high, right? Before we even go into the indices of production, right, and the challenges indigenous manufacturers face, if the CBN increases the MPR rates, I can tell you for a fact that they will be stifling production. Because why should I borrow more? Why should I pay more for money to produce? When, don't forget that indigenous producers have importers to compete with. Because the price imbalance is also a challenge.
Indeed. Let me come back to you now, because looking at our own rate of 26.72%, and I had said totally wildly that there are places in this world where they have 400%, but there are also places in this world where they have 2% and are complaining. They're complaining that this 2% is too much. Now, I was listening or reading of the, I think, yes, it was the Minister of the Economy, Minister of Finance, who was saying that there already are things in the works that will, as a result of President Tinubu's renewed hope agenda, would make a difference. But again, as always, these things have a gestation period. I was going to ask you, coming down from there, coming down from 26.72, give me your prognosis on how doable this is going to be in the, I won't say medium term, because you broke it down into immediate, medium, and long term. How doable is it? People want to see that figure come down.
Well, the truth is, in the next 1 or 2 quarters, we may not see real improvement in inflation rates.
Just not giving ourselves false hope.
Probably go peak at around 29% or thereabouts before we begin to see a reduction in inflation rate. That will take about 2 quarters. I said that because I look at all the indicators. Number one, the system is awash with cash. Fortunately, the cash is not dovetailing into the pockets of the middle and the working class. That's a problem.
Yeah, and it's important you say that, because when it was first of all said, when you said there's too much money in the system, awash with cash, and people will be saying, what are these people talking about on television?
Yes.
You know, what are they talking about?
Yeah, but
that is the ordinary person. They said there's too much cash. I've not seen any of it. Maybe you can explain that, because you said it's not dovetailing into the pockets of the ordinary folk. Where exactly is this cash?
If you look at banking reports, for instance, CBN is presently telling the banks to lend more, fund the economy more, and interestingly, the banks have a lot of money within their system that they should push out. But they, of course, they look at the risk within the system. When you push this money out, then we create bad assets. It becomes a risk management crisis again. So they are very careful not to do that and not to be aggressive about lending and other likes. But when you look at the reality that we have so much cash within the system, it's likely to get worse. Number one, in the last quarter of the year, there is a high intensity for government parastatals to do the budget, make sure that they do the budget runs its focus before another one comes out. Then the first quarter of next year again, we are going to have expansionary fiscal policy. The budget is likely to go from 20 trillion to 26 trillion. That's about 30% increase in budget. There'll be heavy spending next year. Then another thing is that technically the federal government has agreed to increase minimum wage. And from the look of things, like to be around 50,000, 60,000 or more. So when you have so much money now, you pay a civil servant more money, but you don't have the goods to buy. We're all struggling to buy the few goods available. You see that the major task is to make sure that we ease the supply gaps, and the CBN has done something tactical. People don't want to agree with the CBN.
Okay.
They're saying for essential foods and building materials, which is where we have problems really, let's allow people to move these things out. I'll now expect the CBN to expand our policy to put in regulations and guidelines that will make sure that we have less of outflow of foreign exchange, and it's regulated in such a way that they go for big ticket transactions to bridge the gap between demand and supply, and the focus on people have capacity to source for their foreign exchange from outside Nigeria, so that they can also boost liquidity in the FX market. So technically, in another 3, 4, 5 months, prices will come down. Prices of rice, for instance, in Niger Republic is still less than 30,000 naira equivalent for a 50 kg rice. By the time government is able to transfer that advantage into the economy, which is what they're trying to do indirectly, we assume prices of rice and other commodities will come down. The same thing for building materials. We have the cement industry. We don't import the bagged cement. And that's good for manufacturing. But the benefit is terminating at the level of production, not getting to consumers.
Exactly.
So what government is saying is this: let people breathe, let consumers breathe.
Exactly.
Let's have more opportunities, let's have more commodities within the economy, so that when that minimum wage comes,
okay,
we won't pay more for those items. We have varieties, we have options, there's competitiveness within the economy. It's not that they want to deliberately expose producers to competition. That's one. Then if you look at some of the items they've removed from the restriction list now, they're also raw materials to manufacturers. For instance, palm oil for soap making and all of them. Then you talk about grains. The poultry industry is frustrated. People are even selling their fowls ahead of Christmas because they can no longer afford.
They can't breathe anymore, so to speak.
We don't have the grains to manufacture them. But if you're able to create a window by which you bring these things in, the cost, the main beneficiary of those things, of this policy, will be manufacturers. For instance, if you bring in the grains, you have livestock feed coming down far cheaper than it is now. That will transfer to consumers maybe in December, post-December. The same thing goes for manufacturing palm oil and some of them. Of course, in certain aspects, it's hot production. But overall, producers will benefit, consumers will benefit. So the impact of this will be felt in the second quarter. So in another 2 quarters or thereabouts. So by and large, government has made a lot of initiatives and policies.
Okay.
Those policies will begin to give dividend maybe in another 12 months. But to start with, you have to battle. It's going to get worse before it gets better.
Before it gets better. Now, I see that you agreed with that, Mari. And so this really is the message to those who are trying to, help themselves. Heaven helps those who help themselves. And there are a lot of people who are saying that, you just spoke about opportunities, so solving those opportunities. And people are coming out of universities now, being actually trained out of a salary mindset. Say, look, it might be risky. Go out there and become, an entrepreneur. People have to be patient.
Well, yeah. So nothing is you don't give birth to a baby today and expect the baby to start walking the next day.
Okay, let me just stop there so that when I come back from this break, you won't be interrupted. Let's just stay on that model that, you got to be patient, but you're not going to have a baby tomorrow if you just started thinking about it right now. We'll be right back. Okay, welcome back. Our guest this morning, Kayode Oyedeji, economist, and Amadou Edogiawere, startup business lawyer and financial analyst. We were just talking about the kind of patience we were going to have. But also let me throw in there that the kind of things that both of you are quite upbeat about, in spite of the hard times, you're quite upbeat. I like the idea that, look, entrepreneurs, they thrive where there are solutions to be proffered for existing problems. So what if 8 years ago, we were where we are now, 8 years ago?
We won't be here.
Chai.
It's that simple. See, the thing about, so let me say this. See, the thing about leadership is that you cannot afford not to know. And in leadership, you cannot afford to experiment too much. Right?
You've got to be coming from a position of knowledge.
You've got to come from, not just from a position of knowledge, but you've got to have it reasonably figured out. So what we saw in the last 8 years is a lot of experiments, and then halfway, it's not working, let's go back, let's start again. And then you're messing with people's businesses, life mainstay, and here we are. Inflation is off the hook. Remember, the key indices for inflation is when you have simple things and you have big currencies, right? 50 naira is literally non-existent. I'm not going to the 20s and the 10s and the 5s, right? And so you really have from 200 naira. And that's dangerous.
Yes.
Whereas low currencies started going extinct little by little. And nothing was done to ensure that these things are curbed. You really can't buy anything with 10 naira.
God forbid we should reach the level of hyperinflation.
No, but if we do not intentionally address those issues, we will get there. Remember, we have a cost push inflation problem, right? And so that in itself is a challenge that we've got to fix. Now, government also has a role to play in price standardization. But you see, where there is a mistrust, it's difficult for you to actually now get the private sector buying, especially that of the informal sector.
So price standardization that you just spoke about, not to be confused with price control. No,
price standardization. So what you have is price control is saying you're putting a peg. You know, that may be it may appear draconian, right? But you will be surprised that the informal sector are very, very, very structured. So if a cup of rice goes up today in Mile 12 market, in a Butameta, it's the same. You'll be shocked that in another area, it's the same. And you'll be wondering what's going on. They have a means of disseminating this information because they have structured unions that regulate their activities. Now, sit down with them and walk around these challenges that they face. And then see, look, the palliatives that are going over $1 trillion in palliative. Now, what really is the approach? What really is government's approach? I have never been one to say, look, dash people money or give people money to subsidize. No, focus on the root cause. I do not like band-aid effects. And I have said that, you know, Mr. Cardozo and his team have a lot of fiscal engineering to do. Because this will no longer be a white and black approach or a theoretical approach. You really have to come down and see how, you know, especially in the short term, you're allowing people breathe. Because really, the hands are on people's necks.
Well, now, allowing people breathe, Cardozo was saying, among other things, that, look, unlike in the past when compromises were made, I think in his own close circle, he's known as the headmaster because he insists on
following due process.
Follow due process every line of the way. How significant do you think that's going to be when we, as it were, I got the impression that he was saying, we're going to stick to the rules here.
No, so the rules, so what are rules? Rules are procedures that you make that regulate conduct, right? But rules are also a product of the environment, right? So I can't bring the rules that apply in, for instance, if I were going to be addressing judges, right, or addressing or being in a legal gathering, I'll probably wear a tie. Mm-hmm. If I were going to be in a courtroom, I'll probably be robed and wear my bib. Now, I can't bring that rule to TVC's studio. Mm-hmm. So you've got to understand the environment, right? And the rules you make must, and this is the bespokeness we're talking about, understanding the environment where you are trying to structure this. Now, for instance, if you say you are going to empower importers because you want to bridge the food deficit, you also know that you are going to be stifling manufacturers, right? Okay. And so what approach do you take to ensure that both the manufacturers and the importers, because really they are providing a solution. We're talking about poultry. The poultry industry, $4.6 billion worth, you know, is suffering its biggest crisis in the most recent times. Because one, they can't feed their birds. Two, you know, they are not even producing enough.
That's another problem.
Right? So you have...
For a moment, I beg your pardon for interrupting you. Let me bring in Mukhtar, who has called in from Kano. Good morning, Mukhtar. Well, I don't think he's there anymore, you know. Mukhtar, just checking, are you still there? Mukhtar calling in from Kano.
Hello, good morning, Uncle Yori. How are you doing?
Prices are as low as we think.
Hello.
How are you doing, Miss Uncle Yori?
Good morning to you, sir. I can see that we're connected, but I can't hear you at all in studio. It's so low. We'll sort that out. But please continue, sir.
I can hear you well.
You can hear me well. That's good. We can't hear you, but we'll see how that's going to work. Please continue, sir.
Let me make some contributions. Yes, you see, the problem in Nigeria, we have a very hostile and hard environmental influences that are disconnected between infrastructural facilities and the other components to make business easy and simple for people to benefit. See, there is no power, no security. The prices continue to soar because of fiscal policy are faulty. There is disconnect between ministries and agencies. Most of the policies are not being targeted for the poor because the best policy is that which targeted the masses, because they are making policies that suit the politicians. Most of the policies that comes up from the environment is the most important, because there is a problem of insecurity, there is a problem of kidnapping, there is a problem of raw materials, there is a problem of money circulation, and most of the appointees are not capable of holding their office. So the leaders appoint those who contributed to their success. They are supposed to appoint capable and responsible people, irrespective of their political affiliations. If you know somebody is capable, he can handle, let him come and serve. But don't just consider your own people that helped you during the campaign. It's very wrong. And the inflation that you have seen today is lack of the government intervention. And the government is not doing anything to help the masses, because the poor man wants to eat. The poor man wants to have a good medication. A poor man wants to send his children to schools. Even if you go to Europe, especially UK, you will find there is subsidy in the health sector. There is subsidy in the school. There is subsidy in every business. Most of the foods in the UK are very low. The price is very low. You cannot have a very expensive food. Everybody must eat well, so he doesn't even go to the hospital.
Okay,
so
Mukhtar, just before you finish, Mukhtar, beg your pardon. It seems to me that
down.
You spoke about subsidy. You said something about subsidy twice.
Thank you very much.
Mukhtar, could you hear? Can you hear? You spoke about subsidy twice in there. I wonder if you have issues with the removal of subsidy. I think Mukhtar is gone. But he also spoke about competence. He said a number of things. Competence of those who are helping to drive this. And then he brought up the matter of subsidy in different places of the world. So I wanted to say, look, is it about subsidy, which we know the subsidy has been removed and it's not coming back? But then he now spoke about the competence of those who are helping drive this. Would you like to speak to that? And I'll come to you as well.
Well, number one, the issue of subsidy is a very hard, very bitter pill for everybody to swallow. That money is coming from our pockets.
It is.
It's coming from our disposable income. Some people will probably have additional cost of over 100,000 a month just because subsidy was removed.
Yes.
But we've all come to the sad conclusion that subsidy must go, because the level of inefficiency it's created within the economy is massive. And because we wanted the economy to begin to operate with a decent, reasonable level of efficiency, we were all in agreement with government that it should go.
Every next single presidential aspirant
agreed that
that was what he was going to do.
The challenge is how post-subsidy removal regime will be managed.
That is the issue.
The president, for instance, in fairness to him, has demonstrated commitment to making sure that the impact is not that heavy on the people. What about the governors? What about the local governments? Are they ready to go along the same lane? Are they keen into it, or they are just seeing more money coming in and they're enjoying themselves? I've told people a couple of times, the money saved from subsidy, the federal government is only going to take about half of it. The other half will go into local government and states. There is no commitment, no agreement with the people that they will use this money in a particular way that will benefit the people. There is a particular local government where ordinary local government chairman appointed about 38 to do what? Sharing difficult money money we are all sweating to give to government. So how this money is utilized is important. That's one.
So, one moment, please. I beg your pardon, because George has also called in from Ikeja. I know you haven't exhausted the question that Mukhtar raised, and I'll come over to Amaru for that. Good morning, Mr. George.
Uncle Yori, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes. Uncle Yori, in the past, the definition of inflation was when too much money is chasing too few goods. But during the time MPLA held the country to ransom for about 3 months during the elections, the inflation rate in this country did not drop. I noticed that. The point I'm driving at is that while inflation is being discussed, we should also discuss the issue of love among ourselves as a people. If you go to the market in the morning, you buy something for 200 naira. When you go in the evening to the same shop and the same person selling, he will say it is now 300 naira. You ask, why is it so? He said the rate of dollar has gone up. So what concerns dollar with tomato and carrot that we get here and plantain? The point I'm trying to make is that many of us just jack up these prices for lack of love within us. These are the things the clerics are supposed to be teaching
randomly
in religious houses. But they don't do that. They're always preaching how to get tithes and get money from people here and there.
Okay.
So the human element of human conduct is also important, and we need to also stress that. It's the CBN people and the NBS officials who go to the market to take statistics. What they do is, at that particular point in time that they are visiting, they just collect the price. They do not, interrogate the people to find out the cost and how the prices come about. All they do is just to collect and then tell us this is the rate of inflation within so period. But we need to address the cause of the problem if we really want to solve it. So
thank you very much for calling in, Mr. George. I beg your pardon. Thank you very much for calling in. Well, again, let me come to you, Mary, because maybe continuing part of what Kade started on addressing Mukhtar's observations from Kano, but also now factoring in what he has just said, that, look, that last caller just said that as far as he's concerned, perhaps people are even doing part of this arbitrarily because there's a Nigerian attitude where, I don't...
Lack of consequences. Now, I've always said, look, we don't have problem with laws. Nigeria has one of the finest set of crop of laws. Enforcement, consequences for action is a big challenge. And that has always been our bane.
So he might actually be right.
Where you have...
Where people just arbitrarily...
Yes, so if you look at the body language every time there's a new administration, the first 1 month appears like people get to do the right thing because they are not sure what the body language of whoever is the new chief executive would be. And then when they study and understand the body language, they either dip or they improve. And so because the head determines how the body functions. And so I think that one thing that government has got to do in improving our system, it's absurd today that you see workers of an agency or establishment of government, shutting their doors or shutting their gates because a new chief executive has been appointed, right? And that level of indiscipline, you see people lock their ministers in and all that. Now, that does not say high-handedness in any way is right. But the fact is that we've got to get people responsible for their actions. We've got to make people answer the questions that they ought to answer. Okay, and so we've got to ensure that the enforcement of our laws are taken seriously. But let's talk about Mukhtar. Mukhtar pointed out, the challenge of the poor and the lower class. And I think that
sufficient things aren't done for the poor.
The biggest challenge we have is the weaponization of poverty by politicians. And so if you really look, and I want you to check, the problem with us is that we really have a data management deficit. If you check insecurity is always at its peak in between election cycles. Once an election cycle commences, insecurity dips.
Okay.
Ask INEC if they did not vote even in the hot spots in the north. Now, what happens? Where you weaponize poverty, you utilize the lower class to do your bidding, and then you give them 2 fish and a loaf of bread. When it's finished, what they do in between the next cycle is to create a situation where they survive until the next time. How do you solve that problem? Empower them. Education, entrepreneurial, vocational support, adequate political will, and sanitizing our electoral process. Very key. Because when you don't weaponize poverty, listen, I don't know how much you want to give me to come to a ballot, to come to an election place and cause trouble. Me, with my level of education and exposure, and that's me, no.
But that's
Go down the lower end of the stick. If you empower them, a man who has a small shop going for him and is able to marry a wife, feed his children, do a few things, thanks is God. You see, Nigerians are not greedy people.
Okay.
What the challenge we have, Yori, is that we have a big problem with our social safety net. And what constitutes a social safety net? Education, healthcare, accommodation.
I hear you. Let me bring in Sunny in the UK. Good morning, and thank you for holding on, Sunny. Sunny in the UK.
Yeah, I'm here.
Yes, please go ahead now. You're on air now, even though we can barely hear you, but please go ahead.
Okay. I think, thank you for this opportunity first and foremost. But the point I would like to make here is this. There is a form of disconnection between the class of the politicians we have and what ordinary Nigerians go through daily. And how do I mean, and how can we resolve some of these issues? Now, we've itemized the panelists, they've done well to itemize some of the main problems we have with getting food, for instance, getting food to the market, food being destroyed or being damaged or rotting. Now, but in my experience going around Nigeria, I realized that there is hardly any local part of Nigeria that people don't travel to, even when we have all these bad roads. Now, any government of today should start looking at a micro way. It doesn't have to be in a macro level. Micro way of these farmers getting their food, getting their produce to the people, the consumer straight on. And we can throw, I'm going to come here and say throw technology to it. Let's pick some example. Imagine our NIPOS is working very well. I know a town in, or we say a village in Enugu called Ehamofu. NIPOS office is there, but it's been locked for a very long time. Now, and it's a farmer community. Imagine a farmer in that place able to make he harvests his banana, and he can actually advertise it on a particular platform online. Someone in Kano actually ordered it. I tell you, that food can get to them. These are the areas that government needs to look at so that people start having immediate benefit of government. It shouldn't be too hard. In a year, all these type of things can be done. And there are more examples like the panelists have actually given. We should start having leaders, as in those people who are put with the responsibility of managing these agencies of government. So start connecting directly with people. Start feeling the things that, look, this is how people feel, and see how they can resolve the problem
thank you very much,
that we have at this point in
time. I really hate to interrupt you, Sonny, but thank you very much for calling in. Time is, as usual, the oppressor in this case here. So you addressed some of those things, both of you. There's so much more in there, but at least you related. And there's a sense in which we thank Mukhtar for calling in and highlighting the areas that he highlighted. But he also seemed to indicate that contrary to the idea out there that, and you just said that, look, if we were here 8 years ago and the kind of actions that are being taken now had been taken 8 years ago, we wouldn't be here now. But it was Mukhtar's opinion that we might not have the best in terms of Yeah, manpower.
Manpower recruitment, leadership recruitment, generally in Nigeria. What I think he said something about it. Let me start from what would have happened if you had done this in the last 8 years. Government did make efforts. The only thing is that they decided to focus on the soft part of the solution.
Okay.
The difficult part of the solution was ignored. The Anchor program, for instance, didn't really dig deep enough. They eventually started throwing money at problems. If you see what Awolowo did during his time, just take a visit to the farm settlements. You see the houses, the provision for infrastructure, the schools, the health center, the markets, the cluster they created, the mechanized agriculture, mechanized system they infused into the system. We have to go back to that. The bottom line is that in the short run, we'll be able to wriggle out of this problem if we go by ensuring that we close the supply gap. That's why somebody said even during Emefiele, people still increased. People were able to do that because the supply gap was there. The market does not respond so much to sentiment, it responds to reality, because market forces will determine what you have from time to time to fix your price for you. Nobody can keep an item and say buy at 10 naira when somebody is saying mine go for 9 naira, 8 naira.
Yes.
Once there is that competitiveness, market forces will determine price.
Market,
so that's one.
Say.
And ultimately now we have to go back to the drawing board. We have to develop agriculture. We have to develop manufacturing. We have to put the infrastructure in place. We are playing too much at the level of governance, especially as states and local government. They are behaving as if they don't have responsibility.
Okay.
They have to jettison that sense of recklessness and begin to focus on what will save and rescue Nigeria from hunger, from starvation, and from underdevelopment.
We've completely run out of time. But when that guy said that even during the Emefiele era, that something, I remember that we were seeing unbelievable stacks of money that were brought out. And I was saying, you see now, that one was not within the banking system, but I'm afraid we can't even talk about it. So let me just cancel that. I just remembered that the thought, that there's too much money in the system. Well, gentlemen, thank you very much. You've helped us try and understand it, but also you sort of prepared us for the way you put it was that it's going to get worse before it gets better.
Yes, but one last thing that we must
very briefly, please.
We must commodify a particular thing. If government does not do that, we won't attract FX.
Okay.
We need to commodify one staple item. Cassava, for instance. Do you know that in the Western world, they rely heavily on ethanol? And ethanol is a byproduct of cassava.
Indeed.
Invest in the cassava market. Enable them, commodify that product, push it for export, attract FX.
We're going to leave it.
So Basajo tried to do that.
Indeed. In fact, let me not just start up again, because they even said there were parts of it, even flour, cassava flour, and all of that. But thank you very much, Omarui Edogiawere, startup business lawyer and financial analyst. And thank you as well, Kayode Oyedeji, economist, for throwing light on this whole matter. So that's our program out there today. Please join us tomorrow for a fresh edition.